Good to
How you
see you,
doing,
Hannah.
man? You too.
I'm looking here at our caption. So hang on a second. I'm going to change that real quick so people know what we're talking about. We're talking about acne today, huh?
Yep.
What a horrible
Everyone's
subject.
favorite. Mm-hmm.
What a horrible thing, acne. What is
I
up with
know.
that? Jeez. This guy, Weston Price, he was a dentist, and he did a study in the early, I think in the 1920s or 1930s, ended up writing a book on it, where he went to indigenous populations and checked on their health. He was a dentist, so he specifically checked on their teeth,
Mm-hmm.
but he went to New Guinea specifically, and he checked on their teeth, but he also noticed skin issues, and he found that indigenous populations didn't have acne. It was only when they ate Western diets that they started to break out. So therein lies really pretty much all you need to know. Now,
Yeah.
there are some other nuances for treating acne, but for the most part, it's a lifestyle issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's a couple things I want to say. First of all, there's different types of acne, and one of the mistakes people make when they try to treat acne is they try to treat one type of acne with a strategy that's appropriate for another type of acne. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I basically break it down into two versions of acne, and they're not really acne. The second version is not really acne. We make this mistake of thinking when you have pimples, you have acne.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case. Acne is linked to three main biochemical dysfunctions. Number one, skin cells that are dividing too rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that here in a second, and how that forms a typical comedone, which is the technical name for zit or pimple. The second element is hypersecretion of sebum. And then the third element is not really it's not really biochemical, it's bacteria that get trapped inside these inside follicles. I'll tell you how all this here happens in a second, but for now, I just want to tell you there's three steps. One, hyperproliferation of keratinocytes and subsequent deposition of the protein keratin, the hard protein that makes up your fingernails and your hair.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, sebum, skin oil being secreted in copious amounts, too much actually, and there's reasons for that. And then third, bacteria that can become trapped. The second major type of skin condition that gets treated like acne, but is not, because it does not involve hyperproliferation of skin cells. It does not involve, to a large extent anyway, hypersecretion of sebum, a little bit, and it does not involve bacteria, is acne that's related strictly to the immune system and digestion. And this is a completely different type of skin condition that gets called acne. It is not acne. And the reason why this is important is because oftentimes people will get treated for the one, hyperproliferation of keratinocytes, sebum, and bacteria, with the other, for the other type of acne, which is immune and related to the digestive system. And you end up with patients who have a big red mess on their face. And that's it. I'm sure you've seen this before. Now, there's different types of acne that are associated with the adrenal glands, the thyroid, and the liver, and the female menstrual cycle. But for the most part, the two types of acne that we're talking about that really cause the most distress are what I call teenage boy acne. Girls can have it too. It's androgenic, related to male hormones. Women have male hormones too. I call it teenage boy acne because obviously teenage boys have more androgens than women. And then this immune condition that gets confused with acne. It's not acne. It gets called acne. People will say, hey, I have acne. Dermatologists will treat it with acne remedies. Almost everybody misunderstands this condition, although I will say this situation is changing. And it's been changing over the last few years. People are really starting to recognize that there are foods and there are digestive issues which will cause these lesions that appear like acne but are not acne. So let's talk about each one of these individually. Okay. So first of all, the teenage boy acne. And I hope I can say that without causing too much trouble, because it's not teenage boys, it's also teenagers. Teenagers have a surge in these male hormones, androgens, men and women. And you can tell by body type, by the way. Or you can ask questions on the phone to assess whether somebody is a high androgen producer. A hair type will oftentimes indicate whether somebody is a high androgen producer. Thinner hair type, higher hairline on boys or on men will indicate androgen issues. Leaner body type or muscle mass, more muscle definition, not mass, but definition is associated with androgens. You can ask certain questions on the phone, or you can certainly look at people to see if they're androgenic. Leanness is what I always look for, and muscle definition, and also, like I say, hair. or narrowness of the face sometimes can indicate androgens, a high androgen producer. So these androgens, typically testosterone, which is the most well-known male androgen, male hormone. Again, women make testosterone too. And then super testosterone. Super testosterone is called DHT, dihydrotestosterone. It's really the super testosterone is the bad guy, not just in terms of acne, but also in terms of male pattern baldness and also in terms of prostate issues in men. And oftentimes, boys or men who had broken out when they were children or when they were teenagers or when they were kids are going to be more prone towards male pattern baldness and prostate issues because they're producing this DHT. And there are nutrients that you can take which will act as so-called DHT inhibitors. And this is one of the strategies for dealing with acne, with this male hormone related acne. So skin cells divide. Skin cells are always dividing. They're always growing. But under conditions of nutritional deficiencies and under conditions of certain inflammatory factor involvement, skin cells will divide too fast. The most important reason why skin cells divide too fast is when vitamin A is missing. And vitamin A deficiency is not uncommon. And this will cause keratinocytes, skin cells, to divide very rapidly and dump off keratin into a follicle. Real quick, if you look at your face under a Woods lamp or under some kind of detection mechanism, you'll see openings on the skin. Those are called pores. We all know about those. And each pore is kind of like an opening to a rabbit hole. This rabbit hole is called a follicle. So you got a pore on the top and you got a follicle that's kind of like a rabbit hole underneath the pore. Sometimes follicles will have a hair coming out of them. Those are called hair follicles. They don't always have hairs coming out of them. And then all the follicles will have a little pump, a little oil pump in the bottom. That's your sebaceous gland. And it's underneath at the bottom of the follicle, and it helps lubricate the follicle. So you got a rabbit hole, and that rabbit hole is lined with cells, like it's part of the skin. It's just an indentation in the skin, and it's lined with cells, keratinocytes. When those skin cells divide rapidly, they can dump off keratin, and that creates a plug. It's not acne yet. That's called a clogged pore or plug. And by the way, skincare products do not clog pores. That's a myth. Whenever anybody ever tells you that clogged my pores, they don't know what they're misunderstanding how pore clogging occurs. Products do not clog pores. What products can do is they can stimulate an irritation response if it's an irritating ingredient in the follicle, and that can cause keratinocytes to divide rapidly, almost like a callus. But it's not the product that's filling in the pore. People have this idea, I put the product on and it filled in the pore somehow, and that clogged my pores. That's not what a clogged pore is. That seems like, to people who don't really understand the skin, that seems like it would make sense. Unfortunately, you hear that some skincare professionals sometimes talk about that as well. You don't clog pores with a product, except over time, if you have a specific ingredient that can stimulate proliferation of a skin cell in a protective type of response, like I said, like a callus, that can cause a clog, but that takes weeks to develop. People will put a product on their skin and they'll think that it clogged the pores. That doesn't happen. Otherwise, every time you put makeup on, it would clog your pores, or every time you put foundation on, it would clog your pores. It doesn't even make sense, really.
Where does comedogenic and non-comedogenic come into play in that then?
Yeah, irritation in the follicle. When a skincare company does a study on comedogenicity, it takes them 4 to 8 weeks for them to determine the comedogenicity of an ingredient. Why 4 to 8 weeks? As an esthetician, what's special about 4 to 8 weeks?
When we start to shed cells.
That's how the cellular turnover time. And that's how long it takes for cells to turn over in a follicle to determine whether an ingredient is going to be comedogenic or not. So comedogenicity takes time. A comedogenic ingredient takes time to achieve its comedogenic benefit, or comedogenic effects, not benefits, but comedogenic effects. It's not like you put a product on and it fills in the pore. That's the thinking. That's not what happens. Comedogenicity is a 4 to 8 week process. So inside the follicle, cells divide usually under conditions of inflammation, which comes in from food, as well as from vitamin A deficiency. This is why vitamin A is your go-to vitamin topically as well as internally for dealing with acne, because it stabilizes this hyperproliferation, this rapid division of skin cells inside the follicle. As we know, retin A and retinol work topically to help stabilize the growth of skin cells, and vitamin A taken internally. This is vitamin A, one of vitamin A's main roles. It has a lot of roles. One of its main roles is to slow down or speed up, to control, we say normalize differentiation. In fact, this is why retinol is a wonderful topical treatment for actinic keratosis or pre-skin cancer. This is why retinoic acid is used as chemotherapy for lung cancer, because it has an ability to slow down rapid division of cells, which occurs under various skin conditions, but mostly when vitamin A is deficient. And vitamin A deficiency is pretty common. Vitamin A is also a fat-soluble vitamin. So if you have problems absorbing your fats, either a gallbladder issue or an intestinal issue, Crohn's disease or celiac disease or some kind of leaky gut condition, you may not be absorbing your vitamin A even if you take vitamin A. And you do need to have a high dose of vitamin A. So you're not going to really get it from food. And if you're a vegetarian, beta carotene, which is what vegetarians use for vitamin A, is not a great source of vitamin A. It has to be converted into vitamin A. Not everybody does that. So vitamin A deficiency is not uncommon. And vitamin A stabilizes deficiency under deficiency conditions will cause speeding up of, lead to a speeding up of skin cells and then keratin deposition. Not acne yet, though. Mm-hmm. Second thing that's a clogged pore. That's not acne. The second thing that has to happen for a comedone or a pimple to form is secretion of sebum, copious secretions of sebum. The secretion of sebum is tied into the stress response. So stress hormone will cause secretion of sebum. So if you're under stress, either psychological stress or inflammatory stress inside the body. A lot of times when people hear stress, they think of, my credit card bills, my family, my job, and that kind of stuff. But inflammation inside the body is part of the stress response. If you're eating the wrong kind of food or you have some kind of inflammatory condition involving the circulatory system, whatever, those can all cause cortisol to be secreted in abundance, and that can cause hypersecretion of sebum. One of the biggest problems with too much sebum, or one of the biggest causes of too much sebum, is sugar and insulin. And you can always tell when somebody is either eating lots of sugar or insulin or under some kind of duress by oily skin. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people will complain about large pores. This hypersecretion of sebum can also be the cause of large pores or pore enlargement. So for people who are worried about pore enlargement or worried about clogged pores, or as you mentioned earlier, sebaceous filaments, you're going to want to slow down the production of sebum. You do that by calming the body down, reducing cortisol. You can use nutrients to reduce cortisol. Vitamin A can help stabilize cortisol. Vitamin E can help stabilize cortisol. But most importantly, treat it like a blood sugar issue. Go low carbohydrate or reduce your carbohydrates, certainly sugar and refined carbohydrates. Those are never good. And then using nutrients that help your body process sugar and support insulin. And those are things like chromium and vanadium and magnesium and zinc. Zinc, as it turns out, is a real superstar for dealing with acne, for helping with acne. So slowing down sebum production is going to be important. Hypersecretion of sebum is one of the causes of acne. And then thirdly, there's the bacteria. And you'll notice that this is the last stage. Bacterial proliferation isn't really a problem until the bacteria get trapped in the follicle. When the bacteria get trapped in the follicle and they have lots of sebum, they basically have an all-you-can-eat buffet because bacteria love sebum. Mm-hmm. You can actually smell the decomposition of sebum as bacteria act on it when you do an extraction. I don't know if you've ever done an extraction, but you get a kind of a fatty, almost like a rancid fat smell. And that smell that you're smelling is the end product of bacterial decomposition of sebum inside the follicle. But as it turns out, treating the bacteria is really how the mainstream medical model treats acne. But you can see that that's the third step. And the bacteria aren't the problem until you have hyperproliferation of keratinocytes and deposition of keratin, this hard protein, which, like I say, is like your fingernails and forms a plug, in combination with lots of sebum, in combination with bacteria. So just killing bacteria is a very ineffective strategy for dealing with acne. Although in the short run, if you kill bacteria, your acne will kind of quiet down a little bit because you won't have this infection inside the follicle, essentially. That's what really causes the pus and all of the classic manifestations of an acne pimple. So you got too much keratin, protein, fingernail-like protein, too much sebum, skin oil, and bacteria. That forms a comedone. That's androgenic acne. The three main strategies for dealing with androgenic acne are, number one, using nutritional supplements, especially vitamin A, which, as I say, controls the differentiation or the maturation process, we'll say, of skin cells. Must have, internally as well as topically. Must have. In fact, if you do nothing else, get yourself on 20,000 IU of vitamin A. The second element is to control sebum, going low carb, reduce your caloric intake, using supplements that help your body process sugar are all going to be very helpful. Zinc is also very helpful because zinc controls this process of DHT formation. Remember, DHT is super testosterone, and zinc is important for preventing the formation of super testosterone. Again, must have nutrient. In fact, zinc and vitamin A are your two most important nutrients for dealing with acne. I love using vitamin B5, pantothenic acid, and you'll notice in our blemish repair complex, there's super high concentrations of vitamin B5. B5 has a real interesting property. It helps slow down the production of sebum. So, in fact, vitamin B5 is a very important B vitamin that you don't hear a lot about, really important for fatty acid metabolism, for fat metabolism. And B5 also plays a very interesting role in sebum production, and high doses of B5 have a nice stabilizing effect on sebum. So I always use high doses of B5. You'll see high doses of B5 in my blemish repair complex. And then thirdly, you have the antibacterial component. There's lots of things you could do for that. The people usually use antibiotics, but you can use topical. I recommend topical antibiotics versus internal antibiotics. That way you don't end up disturbing the microbiome inside the gut, inside the digestive system. Although topical antibiotics can disturb the microbiome on the skin. So really, topical antibiotics are not as important as slowing down the production of keratin, skin protein, or keratinocyte protein, and then sebum. Exfoliation is awesome. Why? Because exfoliation will, number one, unroof pustules, exposing the internal workings of the follicle to sunlight and to oxygen, killing the bacteria, which is a nice antibacterial strategy. Also, by using topical exfoliating aids, you'll prevent clogging of pores by removing keratin off of the skin surface. And then topical exfoliation aids like alpha hydroxy acids and beta hydroxy acids also are antibacterial. So I like topical exfoliation and peels for the esthetician. Topical retinol is like internal vitamin A, also a must-have because it has an ability to stabilize the rapid division of skin cells, which is what causes the clogged pore in the first place. Topical vitamin C has anti-inflammatory benefits. And a lot of times people say, oh, I don't want to use fat-soluble vitamin C because it's oily. It doesn't matter. That vitamin C, if you use just one drop, which is what I always recommend with fat-soluble vitamin C, that vitamin C will be wonderfully anti-inflammatory. And if you're using retinol for your acne, the vitamin C will help protect against some of the retinol irritation. Retinol and vitamin C, and I know we've talked about this before last week, they go hand in hand perfectly. But it has to be fat-soluble vitamin C. So there's lots of things you could do for androgenic acne. It usually occurs on the T-zone where you have lots of sebaceous action right in the T-zone. Now, the second type of acne is not T-zone acne. It is acne that appears in the cheeks, sometimes on the jawline, sometimes here in the neck area. This is a completely different skin condition, and I just said it's acne, but because that's what in the vernacular we call it acne, but you don't want to think of it like acne. You want to think of it like an immune reaction, and it will tend to be macular, rashy, versus papular, pimply. Now, sometimes there'll be some little pimples scattered amongst the rashiness, but for the most part, it's flat and rashy and red. And that flat and rashy and red is your indicator for an immune system reaction. The main cause of immune system reactions are foods. And this is the type of acne that will flare up when you eat certain foods. Beans are a big culprit, and that includes soy as well as pinto and chickpeas and kidney beans. Big culprit. Cereal grains can be a culprit. Gluten and other components that are in floury type of foods. And then eggs and dairy can also be a problem for some people. But don't go by foods that you think are problematic. Go by your symptoms. Notice when you flare up. So for people who have this kind of rashy condition on the skin, when you flare up, what did I eat an hour ago, 2 hours ago, 6 hours ago, 8 hours ago? This is why food diary is so helpful, because it can memory is sort of weak. We don't always remember exactly what we ate. I mean, sometimes people don't even remember what they had for breakfast or lunch the day before, right? So it's hard to kind of keep things in your mind. Always write things down. When you flare up, go back to your notebook and see what the flare up is due to. The way you want to deal with this type of acne is obviously food elimination, but also using digestive support, probiotics, digestive enzymes, Interestingly, this condition called leaky gut, where toxins get into the bloodstream through the intestine. The intestine is supposed to put nutrients into the bloodstream very carefully through receptors and cells, which kind of grab the B vitamins or the vitamin C or whatever it is and flip it over into the skin or into the blood. When you have this condition called leaky gut, things just go willy-nilly into the bloodstream. And it's not just food that goes, and the food particles and peptides that go into the bloodstream, which can activate an immune system reaction, but also bacterial particles can get into the blood. Little pieces of bacterial membranes can get into the blood. Immune cells can get into the bloodstream. Secretions from bacteria like histamine can get into the bloodstream. So patching up a leaky gut is very, very important. One of the best nutrients, interestingly, for patching up a leaky gut is vitamin A. So the vitamin A that you take for your skin, you can also take for your intestinal health. Collagen peptides can help patch up a leaky gut as well. It's very important, however, to use probiotics, good bacteria, as well as food elimination. Then supporting the bile system with lecithin and digestive enzymes which contain lecithin. Those can support gallbladder and bile health. And if you have a gallbladder issue, oftentimes one of the signs of a gallbladder issue or after gallbladder removal is this type of acne or this type of lesion on the sides of the face. So eliminating foods, using vitamin A, using digestive support, probiotics and fiber, bile support, lecithin granules, digestive enzymes. There's a product we talked about last week called hyperimmune egg, which kills bacteria that can proliferate in the small intestine when you have this condition, SIBO, working on intestinal health. If you try to treat this rashy macular form of lesion on the skin like you're treating androgenic acne, it's not going to work. And you've seen these patients, they come in and they've been using benzoyl peroxide and retinoic acid, and they're just all red on their skin. Sometimes dermatologists, unfortunately, will give these patients Accutane, which is a very powerful sebum suppressant. People who are on Accutane become notoriously dry, uncomfortably dry eyes, dry skin, dry throat, digestive secretions dry up, not to mention Accutane is associated with birth defects and psychological issues. Really, really nasty drug. Accutane works by poisoning the vitamin A system in the body. Accutane, technically the name for Accutane is isotretinoin. Tretinoin is vitamin A. It's the brand name for vitamin A. Isotretinoin iso means similar to. So it's kind of fakes out the vitamin A system in a cell. And this is why dermatologists will say, don't take vitamin A when you take Accutane, because the cells aren't stupid. They're not, if they have a choice, they're not going to take the fake stuff. They're going to take the real stuff, and the Accutane isn't going to work. So that's why people say, that's why dermatologists will say, don't take vitamin A with your Accutane. I say, take vitamin A instead of your Accutane. Vitamin A will provide you with nutritional benefits. It'll provide you with well-rounded anabolic or building benefits, and it will stabilize the growth or the proliferation or the maturation of skin cells so they're not dividing too rapidly. By the way, vitamin A is also used to treat psoriasis for this reason. Psoriasis is when skin cells really divide really fast, forming plaques on the surface. Vitamin A is used to treat psoriasis, and topical vitamin A, retinol and retinoic acid are also used to treat psoriasis, as is vitamin D, which also has a stabilizing effect on skin cells. And vitamin A and D work together. And so you might want to try vitamin A, or sunshine is known to help heal acne. So vitamin A and vitamin D are very important for this kind of androgenic acne, as well as zinc, selenium, vitamin B5, niacin. All of these are very important for androgenic acne. They're also important for a lot of other things. So supplementing with all of these nutrients will give you multiple benefits in addition to acne improving benefits. Omega fatty acids, essential fatty acids, let's say, are also very important because they're anti-inflammatory and they can help calm down the inflammatory reaction that occurs in the follicle, as well as on the sides of the skin if you're dealing with a digestive condition leading to this macular lesion, acne-like lesion condition that sometimes gets misinterpreted as ordinary acne. Long story short, nobody should ever have acne. It's very easy to deal with. Our blemish repair complex, our truth blemish repair complex, sometimes makes the condition completely disappear. Why? Because it's nutrients that your body's missing. Most of us, unless we're supplementing or unless we're really hip to nutrition, are going to be deficient in nutrients because our food just doesn't provide it. So understanding understanding how to supplement strategically and intelligently is not only important for the skin, not only important for acne, it's important for the whole body, and it's important for anti-aging. And this is why I consider myself a nutritional pharmacist, and I use nutritional supplements instead of prescription drugs. I consider nutrients to be God's drugs, nature's drugs, divine drugs. They're the medicine that's in the food, that should be in the food. Unfortunately, is not always in the food because of food processing, but it's basically, you can think of nutritional supplementation as food medicine, the active ingredients in food as opposed to toxic drugs. There are really no drugs that you can take for acne with the exception of antibiotics, which can have a temporary benefit killing bacteria, and antibiotics also have little anti-inflammatory effects. So you get temporary benefits with antibiotics. With Accutane, sometimes Accutane does make acne disappear, but you've got to deal with all of that toxicity, and it doesn't always work. And it particularly doesn't work if you're trying to treat the digestive condition that masquerades as acne, or that somehow gets interpreted and gets treated as if it were androgenic or male hormone acne. Now, if you have acne on the back, I should add, and I know you're a bodybuilder, a very good bodybuilder, by the way, from your pictures. A lot of bodybuilders will get acne on the back. And the reason that happens is because they burden the liver. The liver and the lymph are where you're getting your acne on the back. And that only happens if you're taking male anabolic steroids. That's one way they call it acne. That really puts a stressor on the liver, plus it's male hormone, which really revs up skin's keratinocyte cell division. But it's really mostly toxicity. When you have acne on the areas in the neck, or sometimes people will get little breakouts right here, and then along the shoulders or back, sometimes even on the butt. Sometimes people break out on their butt. That is all lymphatic driven. That's all involves the lymphatic system and all involves liver toxicity. The bad news about that kind of acne that appears in the back is that's a sign of serious biochemical duress. That's a sign of serious biochemical stress. It could also involve the digestive system because it can also be part of an immune reaction. But once it goes on the back or on the shoulders or underneath here in this little pocket between right where your jawline meets your neck, you're dealing with a lymphatic condition, and that means you're pretty toxic. And that's the bad news. The good news is, as soon as you eliminate whatever the toxic driver is, usually food, the condition disappears. And the first acne that will resolve is acne on the back. That resolves quickly, much more quickly than acne on the face, unless you're abusing the body with anabolic steroids. Sometimes people get a condition called dry acne, which is extremely frustrating because most of the strategies for dealing with acne cause dryness. But if somebody's already dry and they're breaking out, it's like you don't want to use retinol or retinoic acid. You don't want to cause more dryness. So what is the deal with dry acne? Thyroid. When somebody has dryness and they're breaking out, they're dealing with the male hormone, if it's androgenic acne in the T-zone, but they're also hypothyroid. And the hypothyroidism is what's going to cause the dryness in the skin. If you're dealing with dry acne, you got to work on your thyroid. And working on your thyroid, surprise, surprise, really means working on your digestive system. And this is just one of the dirty little secrets about thyroid medicine and about dealing with the thyroid is you can't really deal with the thyroid. There's nothing you could do for hypothyroidism except for working on the digestive system, the blood sugar system, and I call it the adrenal thyroid axis, or the adrenal thyroid complex, which means working on your stress hormone, cortisol, as well as working on adrenal health. But that's a whole nother story. Sometimes women will break out along the sides. That's related to estrogen. Estrogen is an inflammatory hormone. I would personally, if I was counseling somebody who had a woman who had menstrual acne, I would suggest progesterone, which can have a balancing effect on estrogen, as well as essential fatty acids. In fact, all women, especially women who are dealing with dysmenorrhea, problems with their menstrual cycle, or skin conditions associated with their menstrual cycle, should be on essential fatty acids. But really, everybody needs essential fatty acids, especially if you have dry skin.
We're just waiting on you to make it so we can get it.
In a laboratory, if you want to induce dry, scaly skin in a laboratory animal, you take the essential fatty acids out of the diet. And that is what causes dry skin in an animal. Same thing will happen with people. And unfortunately, essential fatty acids are so unstable, they're not really found in very many foods. The foods that contain essential fatty acids, seeds and grains, and omega-3 fatty acids are also found in seeds. Those are all processed. And so by the time you process the grain, the flax or the wheat or the barley or the the nuts or whatever it is that you're getting your essential fatty acid, you should be getting your essential fatty acids from, there's no EFAs left. So many people, unless they're supplementing, are going to be deficient in EFAs, which are nature's aspirin. They're nature's anti-inflammatory molecules. Plus, they're very important for skin softening and skin hydration. So if you're dealing with dry acne, you want to work on the thyroid by working on the digestive system and the blood sugar system and the adrenal glands. And you want to be supplementing with essential fatty acids. Any kind of dry skin, you always want to be supplementing with essential fatty acids, as well as fatty vitamins, particularly vitamin A.
What are we looking for when we select an EFA? What's the main things we want to look for? Because they're not all created equal.
No, let me tell you about that in a second here. But first, I want to say that the reason isotretinoin or fake vitamin A causes dryness is because it's poisoning the vitamin A system of the body, which tells you that vitamin A is very important for secretions, especially sebaceous secretions. So skin dryness can be caused by vitamin A deficiency the same way a poison vitamin A or isotretinoin or Accutane causes skin dryness. So your dry skin patient should be on fatty vitamins as well as essential fatty acids. So, you asked a really interesting question, and it's very complicated. So I can't tell you everything. In fact, we should probably talk about essential fatty acids on our next video. But real quickly, there's two essential fatty acids. They call them omega-6 and omega-3, but that's a little misleading because there's lots of omega-6s and there's lots of omega-3s that are not essential fatty acids. So you really want to distinguish between linolenic acid or alpha linolenic acid, ALA, and linoleic acid. These are your two essential fatty acids. Linoleic acid is omega-6. Alpha linolenic acid is omega-3. They're both important. And there's a myth out there that omega-6 linoleic acid is not important because we get lots of linoleic acid in corn and soy and all the various oils that we eat. The problem is we cook those oils, we fry those oils, they process those oils with processing chemicals, and they also come in a clear bottle. So most people are deficient in both linoleic and alpha linolenic acid, omega-6 and omega-3 essential fatty acids. So you want to supplement with them both. And you need more omega-6 linoleic acid than you do alpha linolenic acid. So even though people say, oh, you get plenty of them, you don't, and you need more of those anyway, because most of the body's essential fatty acid content is linoleic or omega-6 essential fatty acid. I like a product called Udo's Blend because I know Udo. Udo Erasmus is the guy who wrote a book which everybody who's interested in fats should read, or at least have in their reference library, a book called Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill. I don't know if you've seen this book. It's the classic book on fats. He wrote it in the 1980s, and every couple of years there's a new edition. It's now in like the 30th edition because it is the Bible of fats. And I happen to know Udo, and he is a true polymath genius, especially when it comes to molecular chemistry and the chemistry of fats. And he had a product, he sold the company, but he developed a product called Udo's Blend, which I absolutely love. There's others out there, but I like Udo's Blend. I prefer the liquids to the capsules. The capsules are convenient because you can travel with them. The liquid you have to keep in the fridge. And this is one of the things about fats is they're very unstable. And that's why you always want them in a dark bottle, and you always want to keep them in the fridge, and you always want to use them up quickly. You want to use them fresh. You don't want to cook with them. I like, by the way, taking my Udo's Blend liquid and mixing it with tuna fish instead of mayonnaise, and then mixing it up. It makes a delicious tuna salad. And
Wow.
canned tuna is one of the greatest nutritional power foods you could ever eat. Now, these days, there's mercury, and you got to worry about that and ocean toxicity. But aside from that, which we all have to deal with that anyway, so that's you got to factor that in, but you're not going to get away from that. Other than that, tuna is a great source of protein, a great source of fats. It's really inexpensive, and it's super convenient in the cans. And now they have tuna that's certified low mercury and clean, and et cetera. So you can make better choices with your tuna than you could 10 years ago when I was lifting weights, tuna fish was like the thing. Everybody was carrying around cans of tuna because it's such great protein. And it doesn't really cause reactions. Like beans are a good source of protein, but a lot of people react to beans. So Udo's Blend is great in tuna fish, and instead of mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is one of the most horrible foods a human being could ever eat. Just FYI. I've seen mayonnaise in health food stores with avocado oil, and there is no possible way mayonnaise, which is basically oil and egg, could ever be good for you because the egg is processed out and the oil is processed. It's just terrible. But Udo's Blend you won't know the difference, and you'll get your essential fatty acids if you mix it in with tuna fish. If you have a blender, throw in a can of tuna fish with some onions, some celery, some Udo's blend. It makes the best tuna salad you'll ever eat. And so Udo's blend can also be used as a dip for cucumbers or for celery. If you mix some Celtic sea salt with your Udo's blend and then dip your cucumbers in there, super delicious, and you'll get your essential fatty acids. The capsules, they're convenient, but you don't really get a lot of oil in the capsules. So if you're going to do the capsules, you want to do 6, 9, even 12 capsules a day to make sure that you're getting enough fats. And I like to recommend that people go with their fat cravings. If you're craving fatty foods, and many people do crave fatty foods, especially women right around their menstrual cycle will crave fatty foods, that's a cry for essential fatty acids. And once you start getting enough essential fatty acids, you really aren't going to crave ice cream, potato chips, pizza, all the things that think of all the fatty foods we crave. In fact, if you want to pick, there's a lot of health problems we have in this country, but one of the worst health issues involves our ingestion of processed fried fats, which are very disruptive for the hormone system. They're super inflammatory, particularly for the intestine. And a lot of leaky gut can be backtracked to the ingestion of fried fats. And maybe most importantly, and this is very underappreciated, all of our cells, we got 100 trillion cells in the body, and the cells are what make us healthy or not healthy. Everything comes out of the cells, but it's the cells themselves that are going to determine what's coming out. So if you're not making enough collagen, if your bone is not strong enough, if your muscles aren't strong, it's a cell problem. And here's the thing. The cell membrane contains these fats. And if you are eating the wrong kinds of fats, your cell membranes are going to contain the wrong kinds of fats. These will be cell membranes that are not plasticized. They're not fluid. So they won't be able to bind to hormones as effectively. One of the ways cells determine what they're going to do, and one of the ways the genes in the cell turn on and off, is based on the interactions the cell membrane has with various molecules as well as with its cellular neighbors. Once that cell membrane becomes dysfunctional because it's too stiff from ingestion of the wrong kinds of fats or lack of ingestion of the right kinds of fats, hormones aren't going to work as effectively. And that doesn't just mean steroid hormones, it also means peptide hormones. That means cells are not going to produce what they need to produce as effectively. And this membrane dysfunction is behind a lot of disease, and it's behind accelerated aging as well. And so working with the cell membrane, or working to make your cell membranes healthy by using essential fatty acids, particularly, as I say, the linoleic acid, the omega-6 essential fatty acid, is really, really important for anti-aging, for cellular response to hormones, and cellular health in general. And so essential fatty acids are incredibly, incredibly important. That word essential in nutrition means you better have it. It's a fatty acid that you better get in your diet because your body can't make it. And under deficiency conditions, you're going to be paying the price with your skin as well as with your overall metabolism. In the case of essential fatty acids act like natural statin drugs to stabilize cholesterol growth. They act like natural estrogen to help support estrogen metabolism and production in the body and estrogen benefits without going into toxic estrogen. They're nature's aspirin, as I said earlier. They're anti-inflammatory, and they play a very important role in cellular health. And they're important for skin moisturization because the production of skin fats and something called ceramides depends on these essential fatty acids. Under conditions of EFA deficiency, you're going to have dry skin. And guess what? Almost everybody has dry skin, despite the fact that we sell billions, 10, 12, maybe $14 billion a year in moisturizing products every year, and everybody has dry skin. Blame essential fatty acid deficiency, as well as probably other nutrient deficiencies as well.
Well, moisturizers are a whole nother topic.
That's a whole other subject that we should talk about because you know my take on moisturizer.
Yep.
All right. So there's nobody should ever have acne, distinguished macular or digestive or rashy acne along the cheeks from androgenic acne, T-zone acne. You're going to treat them both differently, but it always is going to involve nutritional supplementation, diet, eating correctly, stabilizing blood sugar, and working on the triangle of disease: digestive system, blood sugar, and the adrenal thyroid axis or adrenal thyroid complex.
Yep. Sounds great.
All right. Any questions? Anything else? Get our blemish repair complex if you want to simplify. I came up with blemish repair complex because I kept giving people lists of supplements to take, and they're like, "Can I get all this in a pill?" So that's why I came out with blemish repair complex. So you don't have to go out and buy individual nutrients. And blemish repair complex works on your liver to help you process male hormones, or to help the body process male hormones. But the liver benefits that you get with our blemish repair complex will help you if you're dealing with fatty liver disease, and it will help you if you're dealing with alcohol, because it's a great way to prevent a hangover using our blemish repair complex.
Well, and I will be printing out the QR code to hang in my gym for those guys.
Good deal. I appreciate that.
Because they're going to need it. I have a friend that I started noticing his back, and we finally said something to him, my husband and I said, we think you need to back down. And luckily he did, not before things went awry. But
he was juicing up.
Oh yeah, way too much.
Way too much. Yeah, that's acne in the back. You can actually, that's almost like a diagnostic tool, acne in the back. If you see somebody who's like super ripped and super big, and they're breaking out on the back, chances are pretty good that they're juicing up.
We got a question pop up real quick. Oh, that's
Olga. Are we live here? I didn't realize we're live. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Is that because of NAC?
NAC rocks. NAC is the quintessential liver detox supplement. In fact, NAC is such a powerful liver detox that it's kept in emergency rooms for people who have liver poisoning. When people go into the emergency room for liver poisoning from Tylenol or from aspirin, they will put NAC right in your bloodstream. And so, to me, to not use NAC orally is missing the boat on one of the most powerful detox supplements you could ever take. For acne, it is a wonderful way to help the liver detoxify and clear out hormones. And this whole DHT, elevated DHT you can help mitigate some of the effects of elevated DHT by supporting liver detox. So yes, NAC is incredibly valuable for the liver, for all immune function. NAC has actually been used to treat addictive behaviors like gambling behaviors. For mental health, has mental health properties too, mental health benefits. NAC can be used topically if you want to break an NAC capsule and put it into a solution. I don't think it will go into solution actually, but it might go into some kind of emulsion, and then use the NAC topically. It has great anti-inflammatory benefits.
Interesting. And yes, we did talk about zinc. So A, D, zinc, all of those.
Yes, zinc, and I like zinc picolinate. The second word after a mineral, you never see just magnesium or just zinc or just selenium. You always see a second word. So you'll see magnesium sulfate, or you'll see magnesium oxide, or you'll see zinc sulfate, or zinc gluconate, or you'll see selenium monomethionine, or selenium sulfate, or whatever it is. The second word tells you how well the body handles that mineral. Zinc sulfate will give you an upset stomach. Same with zinc gluconate. And there's a lot of people who try zinc and say, I can't take it because my stomach gets upset. And I know I've had that problem myself. Zinc picolinate is very well handled by the body. It's very inexpensive, and you won't get an upset stomach from
yeah,
it.
I have that issue with magnesium sometimes.
Sometimes with magnesium too.
Gotta be careful with magnesium.
The second word after that mineral will tell you how well the body handles that mineral.
Okay. Good to know.
Okay. All right. Well, great to see you, Hannah. Have a wonderful week. Maybe talk about moisturizers next week.
Yeah, I think so.
Do that? Okay.
I think we covered EFAs. I think that's EFAs. We covered enough on those.
Right.
And guided them the right way.
And if anybody has questions, by the way, you can send them out to us at hannah@truthtreatmentsystems.com. Is there any way we can leave that in the chat? Can you?
Yeah, we can put that in there.
Put that in the chat. And then we're always happy to answer questions. And of course, if you're looking for our Truth Skin Health products, Truth Treatments with an S, truthtreatments.com. If you're an esthetician out there, talk to Hannah, because we've got a full line of peels as well as post-peel and post-care products, of course, in addition to our regular Truth treatments.
Great peels for acne, for sure.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
thank you, Olga. And thank you,
Until
Hannah.
next week.
Till next week. Great to see you. Have a wonderful week.